Good evening and welcome. Good evening. I'm just waiting for a few more people to join us. You're very welcome. It's a bit cold here in Belfast today. Had to defrost the car before I took the dog for a walk this morning. But yeah, it's really nice to be here. I'm calling from Belfast. And yeah, we've got where are people coming from? Gonna drop in the chat where you're coming from, Chaco. Where are you from? Is he typing? Where are people coming from? Bianca's typing for us, Brill. Daniel. British South Africa, welcome from South Africa. I think our time zones are pretty similar, but our climate is a bit different. Northern Sweden, wow. Imagine it's dark and cold there, Daniel, but maybe I'm wrong. Typical person from the UK. I just talk about the weather all the time. Sorry. Malaga, Spain, amazing. Much. So hopefully it's warmer than it is here. Folks, it's great to have you here. Welcome. Yeah, so this is our third virtual workshop. So if you have been to the other two, you came back, so well done. Or it's just some kind of glutton for punishment kind of thing, maybe. But if you what we've done over the past two workshops is we've looked at a building application from scratch in the first one, adding slightly more advanced functionality in the second. And today, a bit has changed because we've released version 3.0. And what we're going to do today is highlight some of the really, I think, really exciting features that that 3.0 brings to us. And I'm hoping you will too. So we're going to think about 3.0, and with 3.0, we aim to create an exceptional data-first experience for building secure workflow applications. We kind of reimagined the process of setting up your data structures, configuring security, and effortlessly generating interfaces. Our tagline for a while, at least internally, has been that we want to turn your data into action. And we think that we've done that. We've sort of given even stronger and better tools to you to be able to manage that. So today we're going to look at creating an expense application. I was having trouble saying that word. And if you've already updated to version 3.0, this application is actually already available in the templates. So if I was starting from scratch, I would have a look at the view templates, and I'd scroll down, and there will be an expense approval application here. And like all of our templates, they come along with, what it's built on top of, the reason for it, and some ideas around how you might want to apply it in your work. And the idea with all of these templates is to give you ideas that you can adapt and stretch, and that's exactly what we want to be able to do during our time together. I'm going to start with, I've got sort of some of this application built already, and the reason I am doing that is because I want to be able to focus on some of the functionality that 3.0 brings to us, so that we can kind of stay focused and be able to see the things that are there. So what I would love to show you is, first of all, I want to talk about role-based access control and users, and sort of the user management story, which is slightly different now, slightly more user-friendly, we think, and we hope you'll find that too. Then I want to dive into the data screen, and there's a lot of changes in the data section I really want to draw your attention to. We've got things like in row actions, enhanced views and view joins. We've got the ability to have dynamic screen generation. And then I want to think about automations, specifically the fact that we can branch automations now. And we'll finish up and we'll think about AI. AI is a big thing at the moment, isn't it? And we've got a couple of ways that AI can help us when we're building and generating our applications inside of Budibase. So that's where we're going. An expense application. This is the idea here is that you've got someone who teams want to raise this expense. They want to submit it to a team for that to be approved, maybe by their manager or by finance or someone else. Maybe it gets bounced around. Maybe there's multiple steps in this approval process. And that's effectively what we're looking at, an approval process application. So although we're talking about expense applications, you could be talking about any kind of application that that you could have this kind of flow in. The idea is the tutorial itself will take about 40 minutes, and then there'll be time for questions at the end. But if you want to throw a question in the chat in the meantime, we've got our excellent team are there, and I'll be keeping an eye as well, so that if I can help as well, we'll dive in. And yeah, if there's anything I'm not being clear on, then do please drop it in there. So let's talk about users. When we have our application, I've logged into my application, and I have this users on the top right here. And also I've got this users, which I can click on app users over here to bring up. Hey, Mike. And we've got in our users table, these are the people who are in my application. And they're currently app admins. And if I click on users up here, I can see what I wanted, whether or not I want to change different, what these people can do. So these 4 people, myself and these other 4 are app admins. So they're able to do whatever they want inside of my application. But these other people, if I see the rules they can do, there are 4 at the moment, or 3 at the moment that they can do. Now, in the past, we had a few different roles. We had like power user and basic and admin. And the reality was that those roles didn't always make sense for the context that you were building your applications in. You would have to think, well, okay, I'm going to allow a power user to be able to do these things, a basic user to be able to do these things, but they're quite generic terms, power user and basic user. And we thought, actually, it would be great if people could create roles and responsibilities that more readily mapped to the actual language they use internally, more readily mapped to what you're actually saying about your roles and who people are, the responsibilities that people might have. So in this data screen, just below app users, which is listing all the app users, there's manage roles. And manage roles is a new access interface that allows you to see which are active on our account. And it's kind of a hierarchy of permissions. So here I've got a manager, and I've got 2 sort of compulsory roles. I've got my app user on the left and my app admin. And I could get rid of this manager, and that would be the only 2 roles I'd be able to have are my app user and my app admin. But I can add more granular control for my permissions. So I'll add a role. I'll put manager back in again. So I'll add a role for manager. And I can set their color and save that. And then I'll also add a role for maybe employee. And maybe give them a color as well. So as it stands at the moment, within my application, I can now have 4 roles that I could apply to people: app admin, employee, manager, and app user. And I can say particular screens or particular actions could only be carried out by someone of a particular role. Okay, that's pretty cool. I can sort of have this granular control. But what we can also do is we can grab this connector at the end of the employee. I'm just going to create this lovely arrow. I'm going to put it to the start of manager. And it's going to rearrange them. And what we've got here is a hierarchy. So now we have our app user, and anything the app user can do, the employee can do. And anything that the employee can do, the manager can do. And then anything the app admin can do, the manager can do. So kind of there, so right all the way down, it's hierarchical. So we can have these kind of structured hierarchical relationships between our roles, where everything to the right has, you can follow it through and they have what's coming on the left. But we could also branch it. Say we had a role that was finance, and be finance director. And maybe it's not true, but maybe this particular finance director doesn't have any management responsibilities, but they are an employee. So what I could do is say, well, okay, so they're an employee, so they should have everything an employee has. But there'll be things that the finance director can do, maybe be able to approve expenses, maybe see the accounts, maybe do things that because of maybe GDPR, only the finance manager can see those things. And we can have these sort of parallel as well. And Bianca has just asked if there's a limit, and there's not. You can have as many rules as you would like. So you can use these rules to model the best ways you can for your application. So you can have them branching, and then you could have, maybe there's another rule that we added for maybe CEO. And maybe the CEO then is able to do everything that the finance director can do and everything that the manager can do. So we can kind of merge back in again. So you can have these complex relationships, hierarchical and branching that exists within your application. It's really visual kind of representation. We can zoom in and zoom out. We can change the colors to help us be able to see it. And this sort of connectors are showing the flow of responsibility, which I think is pretty cool. So that's the first thing I wanted to show you. And we'll see these roles, employee, finance director, manager, CEO. We'll see them a little bit more as we see where we can use them, because there's lots of places that we can do that. So first thing, RBACs. So the next thing I want to do is jump into this expense claim table. So this expense claim table is just a table like we've seen before, but we've added quite a lot of new functionality that you might notice if you've used the application a lot, if you've used Budibase a lot, but there might be things that you miss. So I just want to draw your attention to some of them. The first thing I want to do is to create a new view. So I'm at the top here, I've got this expense claim. If I click, I've already created some view. There's a claims to review and there's a submitted claims. But I'm just going to click a new table. I'm going to call this unsubmitted claims. Unsubmitted claims. And effectively, I want to be able to clearly define what rows someone can see, what data they can edit. And this is the primary way that we're going to control access and secure data within our application, views, and those role-based access that we saw before. So if I think about this, actually at the moment, because my main table is set to be access of app admin, any view I create is going to default to access of app admin. But in fact, I want every employee to be able to see this. So employee, you can see there's also a public user. That's someone who's not logged in at all. So there will be some views of our data we might want to give to non-authenticated users. But I want our employee, so I'll set that to employee. So now an employee can see this data. What I would like this to be is claims that I myself have submitted. So I'll filter, click on filter, and I'll add a filter group. And I will say, I want to filter on the submitter. And I want it to equal, well, I don't want to have to pick someone here. I want it to be dynamically assigned to the person who is logged in. So I'll hit the lightning bolt. And I'll say current user and the current user's ID. And I'll confirm. And I'll save. So that table updates and there's no data in it. If I go back to the expense claim, and if I change the submitter, Kaelin's submitted all of these expenses, but if I change Kaelin to be me, this one, and go to unsubmitted claims, then that row is going to be in a database now. It's going to be visible to me. So that's cool. We can filter the data, and now an employee can see the data that's related to them. But I could also have control over the columns. If I click on the columns here, I can see that for each column, I can decide if it's writable, so they can edit it. It's read-only, or it's not visible, it's hidden. So we've got this granular control over each column within our database in this particular view, and we can say, actually, the submitter notes, yep, you should be able to edit those. But the reviewer notes, no, you should be able to read those maybe, but not be able to edit those. And the reviewer, maybe we want to keep it secret who your reviewer is. Probably not, but we can imagine we could hide that column, and that's there ready to go. And we can also use this little arrow over here. This is a view join. I can see that there's expense items here, but I can also add in other things from those expense items, other categories from that table. So as well as linking to that table and saying that they're connected, I can say, actually, I also want to know what category the expense is. So I can show the category. And now if I scroll over here, I can see the category was transport and food, and expense items.category is what's being shown up there. So that's really cool. I've got control over what can be seen. I've got these view joins, the ability to be able to join and show different capabilities between different columns. But there's more, which would be great to chat about. Let me go back to the expense claim, and let me have a think about adding a new column. Let's add a column called status, and the status is going to be a select. And our select, might be like not submitted. We might we'll do a few more of these, something like submitted, oops. And do like approved. You can imagine all the stages you might want this particular control flow to go through. Someone's raising an expense, maybe it got cancelled because they changed their mind. They realized they weren't supposed to be expensing the beer they had, and then queried, maybe there's questions going back. So that's not new. We've had select fields before. But what is new is this default value field at the bottom here. And with default value, we are able to set the default value of a particular field when it's created. So I think not submitted, because the default value for an option is one of those options. I'll be able to save that. So now anytime I create a new row, anytime I create a new action, that default status will be there. Now previously, if we were submitting from the front end, we would have to do something where we would remove a particular field from the form, and then during submission, we would add an action that would fill in that default value. But now we can do that straight from the data view, so it reduces the complexity of being able to have default values. And if you have a field that's not an option, so say like the reviewer notes, for example, our default value can be dynamic. So we could pull in data from the rest of the form. We could have a template in here to help someone say, this is the reviewer note. So like, was the expense authorized? Maybe we'd have some questions for our reviewer. And then we could say, we could have reference to other fields in the form that could be used to fill out that default value. So really powerful ways to be able to enhance and streamline the experience of gathering data from our users. We can set columns to this dynamic or static value whenever that's created. I've still got more to tell you about the data row, though, this data sheet. And the next thing I want to talk about, I'm going quite fast. I hope that's okay. Do shout in chat if there's anything that we can explain more clearly. Our row actions. Now, the eagle-eyed among you might have noticed this action button over here. And if I see here what's going on here, row actions are a new feature that allow us to trigger an automation from the data row. So rather than having to trigger, we've had app actions inside of the application, inside of Budibase already, where we would set up an automation, and normally you would trigger that by a button press or something happening inside the app. But now we have this row level automation. So at the moment, you can see I've created a few already: reject, cancel, submit, and query. So let's create a new row action. So I'll click on row actions. We'll see the ones that already exist. And I will click on create row or create row action. And so I'll set that to be approve. So Georges, I think if I'm the rest of the team can correct me if I'm wrong. I think everything I've talked about so far is available for everyone. But when I get there are we'll look at AI, and that's not available yet beyond enterprise, and it's not available in self-hosting yet. But I think everything I've talked about so far is you can correct me if I'm wrong. So this is my row action. And you can see it's grouped together with this expense claim. So the actions are going to be associated and with the data with table. And here I've got approve. And you can see the table is attached to his expenses, and I'll click an action. So what I might do here, if I want to approve here, I'll say I want to, if it's been approved, I'm going to want to update the row. And what row do I want to update? Well, I want to update the expense item, or expense claim rather. Which row? Well, I'm going to use the lightning bolt, and it's going to be from the row that's just come above, and the ID of the item is just being passed through. So in other words, someone's clicked the approve. This is being triggered. Get its ID and update that row. And how do I want to update that row? Well, if I've clicked approve, I should be marked as the reviewer. So I'll add a field, and I'll say the reviewer, that should be lightning bolt, user by ID. So the first thing I'll do when I click approve is I'll say that I am the person who approved it. I was the reviewer. And the second thing I'll do is I'll move the status. I'll say that the status is now approved. Thanks. And Mike's just that's helpful. Confirmed that the row actions are in V3. So all of the features that I'm talking about are in 3.0, and they're available as standard to all. Ooh. And yeah, if Mike or someone can comment to that, that'd be great. What I will also do, what I could also do is I could send an email, couldn't I? So I could click on send email after I've updated. And who do I want to email? Well, I want to email the trigger row dot, there was a submitter and their email. And who is it going to be from? So maybe it's like finance or somewhere else at budibase.com. What's the subject going to be? Maybe expense claim approved. And I'm going to use the lightning bolt to be able to just have more room to create my my email. Email, as I've mentioned, I think if you've heard me talk about email before, it's great, but it's really frustrating to format sometimes. Email is actually HTML under the hood, and so what we're going to do is I'm going to paste in some HTML. Otherwise, I won't get new lines. So I'll have a big header that says expense approved. I'm just using paragraph tags from HTML. I'll say use the trigger row to get the first name. We're pleased to inform you that it's been approved. If you have any questions, get in contact with the finance team. Thanks for your submission. Kind regards. I don't have to put these returns in. They'll be taken away, but it's just helpful for me to read it. Without the separate paragraph tags, it would just be one big long line of text. So if you are creating custom emails, you should use HTML tags if you want it to be formatted properly. So I will save this. And if I run this test, it'll say, well, which one do you want to do? I can't remember the ID. I'll just stick a 1 in, see if we get anything. So we tried to update the row, and it had problems sending the email because I don't have an email attached to mine, but we kind of get the idea. Now back on the data column, I'm looking at the table, and I'm thinking, oh, well, we've got this expense here for bagels, coffee, and taxi. That's super helpful. Custom roles are premium feature and user groups are an enterprise feature. Thanks, Mike. And then approve is here. So I can click approve. That's going to update the reviewer to be me, Kevin, and it's going to change the status to be approved. And it will also send an email on the back end to the person who submitted it. So row actions are available for everyone and are available in 3.0. And in the views, you can also decide if you would like these views to be, have any of the row actions. So I created this unsubmitted claims view earlier. I can decide actually, well, maybe I want to give the user the ability to cancel their action or cancel their claim. So we'll add that in. And then they'll have the ability just to cancel that. So I can filter down the row actions based on, thank you. Custom roles are free tier and user groups are enterprise. Good. Oh, good. That's helpful. Thanks, Mike. Fantastic. So we've got, already on the, just to recap on this data screen, what have we got? We've got the ability to be able to create a view. Which we've done before, but now we can filter on our access levels, which are available for everyone. We can filter with our columns. We can decide if they're read-only, if they're writable, or even if they're hidden. We can also get these joins for other linked records that we can pull in individual fields to be able to display those. Notice they're only displayable or hidden. We can't edit the linked ones. You'd have to do that record directly. We've got row actions that we can make available for individual views and decide, are they relevant to this view and to this user? Does it make sense what's going on there? Yes, this is all version 3.0. Let's look down my list. There's another type of view that I can do. So if I hit this add view button again, you may have noticed, the eagle-eyed among you may have noticed that I've got this calculation here as well. And what the calculation is allowing me to do is calculate groups of rows. So let's see, say I do the sum of expenses and create a view. And then I can configure multiple calculations. So I'll add a calculation. You can see I can get the average, the sum, the minimum. Maybe I want to know what is the average of the total. And I can group it by, well, status, say, or date. Group by multiple things. Let's group it by date for now, and I'll save. So I can see the average total on these particular dates was this amount. Maybe I'd want to also, I could add a calculation to find out the sum along those dates as well. So, oops, I didn't update. I forgot to save it. Let me do this. Oh, I forgot to say what column, the sum of the total as well. So now, we only have one calculation, or we only have one per date. So let me change to be grouping it by the status. And we can do that as well. So let me drop the date. Okay, so we can see approved. We've only got one thing approved at 22. And in any other status, it's got 268 in total and 53.6 in average. So the average is that going on. So calculation views are really helpful to be able to get insights in our data quickly and be able to see those without having to do those calculations separately. One more thing I want to show you from the data, and that's this generate button, which is brand new in 3.0. And what we find is that we love the journey of taking our data and turning it into action. I said that a lot already. We love the flow from our data to our design to our automation, following that along. But if I'm in my data screen and I want to just quick say, actually, I'd love a form based on this data, or I'd love to have, well, let's see, I'll hit this generate button. And you can see that these are the things I can generate from the context I'm in at the moment. So rather than going to the design tab and then saying, oh, I would like something from that table over there, instead we're starting at the data table, and we're asking the design tab to be able to create something from it. So I can create tables or forms or automation, so row creation, row updating, and row deletion. So I'm going to create a table. And maybe how do you want to manage rows? Maybe I'll do modal and I'll click done. And that's going to create a view from that page, a screen from that page that has all the features that we love about Budibase, that we can sort of move these around to be able to orient it and size it the way we'd like. We can see what it looks like on mobile and then decide, oh, well, maybe we want it to look slightly different on mobile. Maybe we want it to look slightly different on desktop. We have that control. And if we were to preview this, we can see that when we create row, we're getting that modal because that's what I asked for. I asked for a modal and that's it, ready to go. So the hope is that that generate screen button, that generate button will, again, streamline your ability to be able to create streams or create screens from the context that you're actually working in. All right. So there's tons of stuff that we've added in 3.0 to the data view, and hopefully would love to see what you're doing with it as you build applications of your own. I want to jump over to, there's two more areas I'd love to explore, and I think I've got time. And what I'd love to be able to do is show you maybe the automation tab, which we've seen already, but I want to talk about branching. And then I'd love to talk about AI because, you know, AI is cool these days. So I am in the automations tab and I'm going to click the plus for the automation over here. And nothing much has changed here. You can see we still have the triggers that we've used for a long time now. The ability to run some kind of automation when a row is created or updated or deleted. The ability to be able to run some kind of automation when this application receives a webhook. So it's being called from outside. So a really powerful way to integrate with third-party services by using webhooks. We have app action, which I mentioned earlier, are just automations that will be triggered by something inside our application. So we can decide what that is. And finally, this cron trigger, which I'll talk about in a little bit. For now, I would like to, let's imagine we had a submit automation. So let's say row is updated, and we'll call this submit automation. Okay. And so I'm going to have maybe it's going to be the expense claim. I only want it to trigger when do I want to trigger? When the status column equals submitted. Okay. So when it's submitted, what do I want to happen? How do I want that? How do I want to go? Well, what I'm going to do is click on this little branch here, create branch. And that's going to create a branch. And for each of these branches, I can set a condition and then set a workflow based on that condition. It works left to right. You can have as many branches as you'd like. They get a bit complex if you have too many of them, but I'll start with 2 and we'll see how we get on. But works from left to right. Only one of the branches will run. So you kind of the first success is the branch that's going to run. So let's have we could have a condition that maybe had what could it be? Something like the trigger outputs dot row maybe the total no, I was going to do, sorry, I was going to say the department. Trigger outputs dot expense items dot, there's category on there. So maybe have something like the category equals food. And maybe we have a complete automation based on food. If it's food, then that should go through a particular team who want to assess, hey, is this acceptable? Is this allowed to happen? Are we allowed to do this? And we have another condition that maybe it was if the trigger outputs dot expense items dot category, category equaled like transport, say. So you can imagine you could have by department, you could have by category, you could have lots of complexity that you could have. And we're thinking about sort of multi-steps that you might have for your flow. So you have do this, then do this, and based on, if it's food, maybe you want to check if the cost was more than a certain amount of money, and if it was, we should do something about that. We say, oh, actually, the daily stipend is only £30, and you spent £70, and so we're only going to be able to recompense you for £30 of that. So we could have some kind of flow, but for transport, we don't have that kind of limit. We want to make sure it's less than £200. And if it's more than £200, we could say, oh, actually, could you, this should be flagged with your manager, or we should have some prior approval. And is that going on? So these branches inside of our automation allow us to be able to have a lot more sort of complex automations. We're able to sort of move this around, have a look to see what's happening, which is super helpful, because especially as this gets bigger, we can move this as sort of like a canvas that we can have a view of this automation as they sort of grow. We can also zoom in and out. You can imagine as this does get more complex, it can be harder to be able to follow. But you can zoom out to get the big picture, and then zoom in, and you can get an idea to be able to have more clarity about each step and be able to dig in on that. So we can branch our automations. One of the other automations that I sort of talked about or hovered over a second there were crons. And cron triggers are great. And if you've been working computers for a while, you've probably seen these before. It's a way to have some timed way to be able to trigger a job. And I know when I'm writing cron jobs, chronological jobs, I come to a website like this one. This is called crontab.guru. I'm thinking, right, what I really want to happen is I'd love something to happen at 3 a.m. every Friday. It's like, okay, so and I have to remember the syntax. I have to go, right, 3 a.m. So that's 0 minutes past 3. So it's 3 a.m. and every Friday. So the next number is day of month. So that's like 0, first, second, third, fourth. So I have to put a star there because I don't care about that one. Next one's month. So I don't care about that one either. And then I want to happen on Friday. So I think that's day 5. Okay, so now I've done those for too many years. And so I come here and I kind of remember what I'm doing. And, but if you wanted to just know, hey, 3 a.m. on a Friday, surely we don't need to memorize this kind of syntax anymore. And this is one of the ways that we're able to use AI on the Budibase platform. Now, AI is only available on enterprise. And if you come up to the settings level in AI, you can add configurations for any of the main providers. So we've got sort of defaults built in for OpenAI, Anthropic, Together, and Azure, but you can also use custom. So if there's an API endpoint for an AI that you're using, their documentation will tell you what you need to do. You then enter a name for it, select a model from that provider. So if I was using OpenAI, I can decide which of the models I want to use from OpenAI to be able to run my AI prompt through. And there's always, as you explore this, if you haven't had the joy of exploring this, there's a trade-off between how much and how fast and how accurate or how rich the interpretation is. And it may be that for some things you don't care about it being particularly fast, and for other things you want it to be really fast. So you've got sort of the choice to choose the model. I've got one set up already, so I'll go back into my application. And I'm going to go to my automations and cron job. So I'm going to create a cron job, and I'll say every Friday at, I don't know, 4:30 p.m. And I now have a generate cron expression with AI. So I'm going to say every Friday at 2:30 p.m. I'll hit this little generate button. going to send up to OpenAI, and it's going to create that cron expression for me. It seems really tiny, but it's a really awesome sort of quality of life thing. That means you don't have to know how to work out those cron expressions. We're going to let the prompt do that for you. So that's one of the ways that I think what I think is really cool that we've built in to be able to use AI. But for the show, the last thing I wanted to show you, I think, as I check my notes, I think the last thing I want to show you is back in the data tab. I'm back in the data tab. I'm going to go back to my expense claim. I'm going to add a new column because we do actually have a new type of column, and that's an AI column here. And I'm going to call this, I don't know, the Spanish translation. We've got Bianca from Malaga, and we have Kaelin, who's also in Spain. So we've got a large Spanish contingent. And so I've set the Spanish translation, and I've got various operations that are built in here. We've got summarize text, clean data, translate, which is the one we're going to use, categorize data. We can do sentiment analysis, prompt, and search web. So I'm going to do translate. Which column do I want to translate? Let's translate the submitter notes. And what language do I want to translate it into? So I'm going to say Spanish, and I'll save. So those submitter notes are going to be taken. They'll be sent off, and I think I need to create or update a new row in order to trigger it happening. So let me change this to 33 and save. Oops, wrong button, Kevin. Yeah, cool. In-def window. Okay, so I changed the one that had something in it, so it didn't have anything in it. So we were thirsty, so I'm going to change the price to 18, and we'll see. Teniamos said, I don't know how accurate that is. Maybe one of our Spanish speakers can tell us how good that is. As always, in this instance, we're relying on the AI model. So depending on how accurate the AI is, rather than how accurate Budibase is. So it'll really depend on which model you choose and how good it is in the language. This is available for premium cloud tenants. So we're hoping to be able to get it into self-hosted users soon. But custom LLM configurations are limited to enterprise. So if you can use the LLM built-in AI model with premium. If you want to add custom profiles, like I showed you, you would need that's on the enterprise version as well. Mike's had good translations with Welsh. Cool. I don't know how good the Irish would be either. So, but yeah, there's definitely things to be there. There are things I had to talk about with 3.0. There've been, I think there's been lots of really nice quality of life improvements. I think there's lots of great ways that this data tab in particular is just even more rich than it was before. So just to recap of what we had to look at, we looked at these roles, and these roles are available for everyone. And I think I'm looking back over the chat as well to remind myself, there are user groups that are only available for enterprise, but the roles themselves are available for everyone who's using 3.0. We looked at our data table. We've got our custom views. We've got our row actions. We've got our ability to be able to limit our access for our custom views for particular data. Add row actions for those, show columns, join columns, add AI columns. So many great things are on there, and generate screens from there as well. And then in automations, we looked at being able to generate these cron triggers from an AI prompt and be able to branch off our AI automations or automations based on any criteria that you decide to have those more complex automation workflows. So that's all I've got. I hope that's been interesting and useful, giving you some ideas for how you might be able to leverage some of these features in your own applications. If you did want to see the finished application, the full expense approval, if you weren't here right at the start, I mentioned that this is actually available in the templates already. So there's an expense approval application in the templates. And if you look at that, it has lots of the stuff that we just chatted about that are there. and are ready to go. So, any questions before we finish up? I'm 5 minutes quicker than I am. I'm normally talk much longer, so it's good. Any questions or ideas? So it's hard this time, especially in the dark of Sweden, where it's cold, and it's cold here as well. Cool. I know that. Oh, cool. So Mike has stuck into the chat a bit more about AI features from launch week. And more about view calculations. Oh, cool. I mentioned view calculations, but I didn't do a lot on them. So Mike's got some ideas on some more ways that you can use view calculations in the chat. Amazing. So we currently can't use AI to generate our screens. We're hopefully the generate screen button is helping us to get a bit closer to that. And our hope is that we'll be able to take that generation of screens even further as we continue to develop the platform. Cool. Oh, yeah. So there's a poll in the chat about what your favorite new feature is. So the new RBAC, the improved data, the automation branch and AI, and something else. But cool. Folks, hope that's been useful. As always, this will be recorded and get emailed out to you after the fact. So if there's something that you saw, oh, how did he do that? Then do have a look back at that. Mike mentioned the launch videos the videos from launch week. There, each of the founders and a couple of other of our engineers created some videos for that, and they're excellent. So have a look at those. We're currently in the process of updating the Budibase University, so that it shows the 3.0 screens and things as we're building applications together. So that'll be another reference for you to be able to look at. We aim to do these as much as they're useful. So if you've got any ideas about things you'd like to see us build or things you've been struggling with that you'd like to see going on, then do email just the team that you registered here with. But other than that, I think we can finish up there. Thank you so much, and I'm just watching the chat. Yeah, cool. Thanks so much. And yeah, Jack was typing. Hey. Thank you. And hopefully see you again. In the meantime, show us what you've been building, either in our Discord, which you can join from the website. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you again. Thanks, everyone. See you later. Bye.